I'm Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop. And we've had a really special guest, Layne Flack, because he's been very entertaining, very frank, and we're going to keep
He talks a lot,
him.
too.
He talks, which is what we want. We just like to wind up the guests and let them go. Make sure you watch part 1, archived on Card Player TV, and let's keep rolling.
Remember in Costa Rica, they used to have these $10 tournaments
Right.
and it wasn't actually unlimited, but it was almost
Practically,
unlimited because
yeah.
at each level, for the first 5 levels, you could rebuy more. So you
Right.
could rebuy 5 times right away, and then the first level you rebuy 8
Eventually,
times.
it was like
I thought that was a
25
great
times.
That was the
Something
most
like
fun
that.
I've ever had. I mean, and then like there would be a line. Like I remember I was at Daniel's table, and like the line on Daniel and I was 175 buys. It was
Yeah.
at $10.
To the point where they put a person standing behind each of you.
Yeah, they had to be
Just
there.
rebuy.
Yeah, I mean that's. I
But
recall
you paid
those.
for them at the break.
But then I remember Mike O'Malley won one of those. So like in a tournament where I bought 75 times, he bought for $10
Right.
and won. You know,
It can happen. Just to give the counter argument, there's no doubt that equity-wise, it's completely fair. You're putting money in, you have the option to put in as much as you want or as little as you want. You have a bigger return on if you put in less, you have less chance to win. If you put in less, it balances out.
And-
The only question is at the World Series, where there is all this added value and added prestige to winning a bracelet, does a rebuy tournament like a closed event or non-open event, does it distort the
It's not-
the tournament
it's
itself
still an open
and
event.
change the
It's still an open event.
Let's look at it this way, from this perspective. If the players had the say, then it's correct to have rebuy tournaments because there wouldn't be 800,000-900,000 player fields. If it was incorrect, the fields would be
People want a
80
rebuy
people, the ones that
tournament.
do all the rebuys.
Right.
But apparently, if the players were to speak, the numbers speak for itself.
and as Layne pointed out, and unlike Layne, I'm not going to single any individual out. There were bracelets where there were under 20 people in fields. There were bracelets that were businessmen
Well,
tournaments.
they're giving-
Businessmen
they're-
tournaments.
They're giving away bracelets.
Are we
for
talking
the-
about the Doyle Brunson situation?
They're giving-
I would like to.
Well,
make that
okay.
statement.
Doyle got upset because you pointed out. Now, it was all a misinterpretation, I think. You
100%.
were not implying that Doyle bought a bracelet as people accused you of. You were just pointing out that there have been different levels of difficulty to get bracelets.
Wasn't the first year of the World Series there were like 8 contestants?
Well, the first year they voted.
6 people in the main event the first
Right.
year.
Now, when the reporter came to me and asked me about the rebuys, he says, Layne, the critics are saying that we should take away the rebuy tournaments because it's a way to buy bracelets. And I simply said, the critics have been saying this since all the way back when there was 8 people in the tournaments and Doyle won. But I know Doyle didn't win when there was 8.
Right.
There's more. But I did not say Doyle bought his bracelet and Doyle did.
Right.
I said the critics have been making these statements
You-
and
you
accusations.
never-
He's the one player who's been around since then.
That
right?
long,
You
right.
never implied or said that Doyle bought a bracelet.
No.
But what you pointed out was that there were different field sizes, different levels of. You know how many people?
Doyle won a mixed doubles bracelet.
Right.
and-
We've
and
talked
that's
about this on the
seven
show, Layne.
players.
You know how many people cumulatively Doyle beat for his 2 main event bracelets?
How much?
54 people. There was like 22 one year and 24 or 34 the next.
I think
but he
20
was
I
2
think-
of those people.
I think it was 23 and 34, like 57.
And
people,
I know
something
this.
like that.
I won the main event at the Legends, and there was 54 players.
Right.
And today I consider that one of the toughest tournaments I've ever won.
Especially because I was third in that.
There,
was a
what
big
was
part
it?
of the
Every
tournament.
table there was 5-6 world
Yeah, no. It
champions.
was super tough. It was
and wasn't
ridiculous.
some
It was
Trump second?
ridiculous.
Yeah, what was
Yes.
that? What was that kid's name?
He bought a magazine with his winnings.
Jeff Schulman. I think
Schulman.
he owns everything we're
And
sitting on.
He bought a magazine with his winnings.
Right.
Well, that was a great tournament because the field was super tough. The buy-in was only 5,000, even though it was a championship event. But first prize was like 100,000.
Yeah.
And I remember third was like 35,000. I mean, you got by all these champions, but there was no overlay, no.
I never not sat at a table where I had 3 or 4 or 5 world champions at my table, and it was.
The funny thing about
I don't know why you and Jeff didn't just carve Layne up.
The other thing I liked about that tournament is when you signed
I was
up,
their mentor.
you got seated with whoever you signed up with.
Right.
They didn't scramble the seats.
Right.
And I remember Barry Shulman came late because he was coming from out of town, and he signed up right at the end when Johnny Chan and David Chu signed up. And instead of like breaking up the tables and evening them out, they put the 3 of them at one table playing 3-handed until other people busted out. So the blinds just
So
whipping
everyone else was
around.
playing full and they were
Everyone was
playing short?
full, they were playing 3-handed, and Barry's between Johnny Chan and David Chu just I drove down there with Jeff and with Huckseed from the hotel, and we signed up together, and then we were at seats like 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like a WPT, the
Right.
equivalent of now a WPT.
Well, you know, people
championship.
forget, like, these are the old days.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Chip Jett, and I was reading an article about when he was best overall at the Commerce, and in the big tournament, and he's got the beautiful trophy, and I was thinking, yeah, he probably won like, 200,000-300,000. It wasn't as much as now. To be best overall, he had a great week. Probably in total, he probably won
Including all
like
the
200,000.
I won best.
You know how much he won? 20,000.
Right.
Just over
Total.
20,000.
I won
yeah.
best overall there, I think, in '99 or '01. I had 6 final tables. I went to the final table 6 times. The 5 times I was chip leader, I never won it. The one time I was a short stack is the one I won. Back when they give that BMW car or whatever. I don't
Yeah, they had the
Right.
best overall
Of
car.
course.
And I don't.
You get a car?
And I don't remember how much it
Yeah, I remember getting
Was it?
getting their promotional brochure that had like the all-time money winners, and once you got past like first or second, it was like 82,000, for the all-time money winners, even if you'd won.
I don't know how
Time.
people survived. I know when I was player of the year, I think I made like 800,000 in W2s out there, and to be out there was like 450,000.
Right.
Yeah.
To travel, so
There's no
a
extra
net of like
income.
300,000.
No income for wearing a logo
Right.
or anything.
And I'm going, my God, I wonder what the second place person.
Yeah.
You know,
How did they do?
I mean, how can the fields be bigger than
Well,
5 people?
I know one guy who won the Card Player of the Year, which takes a lot of consistency over the whole year, who was like negative 150,000 just on buy-ins, not to mention expenses and all the other stuff and taxes. So, but to wrap up on the earlier story, Doyle took offense at the implication that he bought a bracelet.
But
even though
no,
that
but no
had not been
implication
the
was made.
implication.
Right. And by the way, this is not. We all revere Doyle. He's one of the greatest of all time.
Well, I followed it up with, and I says, this is the evolution of poker.
Right.
I says, nobody who has a bracelet should be disregarded. They earned it, they won it, that's the evolution of poker. It grew. That's how it grew.
I mean, I don't think there should be non-open events where they give bracelets.
Right.
But any open event is fine with me.
Now I get a call, and I go, Layne, have you read the articles? I says, nah, so I get on there and look, and I go, oh, wow, that's interesting. So I call Todd, because I couldn't get a hold of Doyle, and Todd's like, yeah, I heard it didn't sound good. So the next day I go to the Bellagio, I'm playing, and Doyle's in Bobby's room, and so I go walking in there, and I'm just standing behind him. And sit there with Phil Ivey and Eli and John Hennigan, and Doyle looks up and he goes, well, there's my friend now. And so he pursues to tell the story to these guys.
To the table.
And I'm just sitting there laughing, and as all I look, and I look down and I says, Doyle, what were you thinking? Why would you write something like that? He says, I thought you were my friend. I says, well, you see, that's the only thing you got right. I am your friend. And then I said, Doyle, can I ask you a question? He says, what's that? I says, am I the first person to have my picture on your blog? He says, no, Michael Phelps was. I says, darn. And I turned around and walked away.
But you and Doyle are cool now.
Well, yeah. I told him, I says, it'll probably be what do you call it when you rewrite?
But there's not going to be.
Yeah. I finally just said,
A retraction.
a retraction. Yeah,
It wasn't
No,
a misquoting.
It was just a misimplication.
This reporter was his first, like one of his first things.
But I think you said what you were quoted as saying. I think it just was an unfortunate.
Well,
Came out the wrong way.
The big one that was said different was, I said, the critics have been saying this since Doyle. I think it goes all the way back to that. I say the critics, because that's the way the question was stated. Layne, the critics are saying this. I said, the critics have been doing this crap all forever.
By saying the critics, you're aligning yourself with the critics. I think the key point is that you were just pointing out that it went back to that time, not that any particular person had bought, in quotes,
I
bought a bracelet.
I don't think anybody has bought a bracelet.
Obviously, it's got a lot harder now.
I think some people have. It's just that Doyle is not one of them.
And not only
Actually, some people.
Some people have, but Doyle's not one of them.
not only
It's
then,
not
back
one of them.
then, bracelets didn't even hold a prestige.
Right.
No.
So who was going to go buy one? It was just.
We can move on to another topic. They had businessmen,
Right.
so non-professional poker player
right.
businessman,
See,
and
even now the outrage is that they have the seniors tournament, they have the ladies tournament.
Yeah,
they
those
have
are
the
not bracelet
employees
events.
tournament, but they give out full bracelets
Yeah,
for those.
those are not.
And those are the ones that are questionable in my mind. If you played, even if there were 15 people, that's what it was.
Right, correct.
Whose fault is that? I mean, times it's like saying in sports, players are bigger and stronger. A guy from the 30s probably would get killed now. Well, that's how it is.
Your bracelet,
Things have evolved.
you bought that, right?
You have a bracelet?
I
Limit
bought
holding, I'm
I
sure.
bought it.
What's your
He
bracelet?
played
the
no
no
limit
limit
against Devilfish for like 5 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
Actually,
so
my
proud
final
of you.
table. My final table was, at the time, none of us had won a bracelet, but Phil Ivey, David Pham, Toto Leonidas, none had won a bracelet yet. We were youngsters.
Oh, so it was a battle.
So it was a battle. It was fun, and then there was Devilfish, who had won a bracelet, who wanted another one, and another guy from England who had won one. So it was a pretty. If it was on TV now, it would have been a pretty dramatic thing. But it was in the dark ages.
They lost the
They have a
kinescope.
few-
They
have
lost
a
the
few
kinescope.
black
Yeah, I
and
feel
white-
that way too. I think I missed the
They have
window
a
by a
few
year or
black and
two.
white
You know,
photographs of it.
poker really hit big on TV like
Right,
before, and I went
you
back
were
to back
having
in
some of your
02, 03.
tough times
Anything
when
pre
it exploded.
I mean, the Chris
Yeah.
Moneymaker's a delineation, because after he won, it exploded as far as poker in general and TV in particular. People watching the World
Yeah.
Series. So, us winning pre-Moneymaker, it was just something that other poker players knew, and
Right.
you didn't get the word of my win, but maybe some other people did.
I was just
No,
hacking.
I know
Yeah,
you are. I know you do. But the thing is, it's not on TV. Once it's on TV, then and now not all the events are on TV. So if you happen to be one of the TV ones, it's huge. If you're not, people might pass you in the hallway and not even know that you'd won.
So, this kind of prediction is cheap, but Layne and I played golf a few weeks before the World Series this year, and I told him that, I could see in his eyes that he's clear-eyed, he's
Right.
lucid.
He took me aside.
and I
he
said,
says,
I
Layne,
think
he
you're going to
says-
do something this year.
I says, I think you're going to win this year.
Well, I want to talk about that because you won the 2 in 2002. You won the 2 in 2003. You're winning a lot of other tournaments too, and a lot of other
Yeah.
money. And then from 2003 to 2008, you didn't have a lot of notable results.
No,
Now,
I think I
sometimes
had
that's-
the one in Bahamas or
Yeah.
WPT one.
Yeah, but and that was what, 2004.
Four.
So even then, from 2004 to 2008, not a lot of your name in the
Yeah.
press and the results, which doesn't necessarily mean anything because there's a lot of variance in luck, and also some people are playing fewer tournaments or not playing or whatever. Is it because you weren't clear-eyed and lucid, as Adam is implying, or
I
is
didn't
it just the
imply, I
way
said
that the
it.
cards came out?
If when Adam says clear-eyed and lucid, that would be a compliment for the 4 years. If that's all it was, it wouldn't have been so bad. But yeah, things got pretty rough for me. I pretty much went on a spiral and handled things pretty poorly for
Were
2 or
you-
3 years.
And did that mean that you weren't playing, or that you were playing?
Oh, I was playing, but I was in a situation where I did not want to be at the poker table. I got into some, you want me to say, I got into
Whatever.
kind of a
Whatever you
drug
want.
phase, and I was in a not such a good relationship, and it was just not, poker just was the furthest thing from my mind. But yet I had to, still be out there.
So Layne has continued to roll.
He's on a roll.
And-
Let's
And
Let
we're
him
going to
go.
do something that that I think is unprecedented.
It is in scoop history.
And in the same way that Layne made history with his back-to-back wins in back-to-back years,
We're making
he's
history
gonna-
right now.
He's going to make history as our first 3-part guest. So join us for part 3 next week, and we'll be back with Layne. Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Write to us at thescoop@cardplayer.com.
2 bracelets. Awesome.
Well, these aren't easy to win. Remember this one like it was yesterday. My opponent had me down to my left. Sorry. Anyway, it's down to my last few chips. So, I had to call.
We play at FullTailPoker.com.